What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so shout out to the brother Town Biz for his review of this Netflix series about Jeffrey Dahmer. Please subscribe to his platform. Please subscribe to his channel. I just finished watching this today, and it's on Netflix. I believe it's number one on Netflix. I believe it's the number one streaming series right now. It's called Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. And it stars Evan Peters, who a lot of you may remember. If you're not a fan of his per se, if his face looks familiar, he's the one that played Quicksilver in some of the recent X-Men movies. But he's a great actor from what I've read. And he really is a great actor because out of all of the films or what have you where an actor has portrayed Jeffrey Dahmer, I think he's done the best job. There was a movie that came out a couple of years ago, My Friend Dahmer, where that actor did a very good job. I thought much better than the guy that played Hawkeye in the Avengers movies. He played Dahmer in a movie from 2002. Not to besmirch him, but I thought the guy that played him a couple years ago did a much better job. But Evan Peters really nails him. And, this is one of the most, if not the most emotionally draining things for me to watch. It really took a lot out of me to watch those last 3 episodes. One thing I like about this miniseries, is it highlights a couple of things. It highlights how even though people who knew Jeffrey Dahmer, his family, he didn't really have any friends. His family kept trying. Because usually when you see movies about sociopaths or psychopaths, whatever you, serial killers in this instance, you don't often see the family interaction. You don't see the humanization of these people. And I'm not saying that Jeffrey Dahmer should get any sympathy whatsoever. But there were people that cared about him, as hard as it is to fucking believe. And this is the thing. Did he have the best childhood ever? No. From watching the series, his father was emotionally distant. His father was the one who introduced young Jeffrey Dahmer to experiments as far as, taxidermy and, experiments as far as dissecting animals, and somehow, some way, that hobby of his, as he grew older, became mixed into his sexuality. Something got fucked up in Jeffrey Dahmer's mind, right? But one thing I like about this series is it doesn't try to make excuses for his behavior. His family does. And you can kind of understand why they would do that, because they don't want to see their son as evil. They want to see him as a good kid who is something wrong with him. There's something not quite right about him. And he did have a somewhat dysfunctional family. His father wasn't emotionally available. His mother wasn't physically available. His mother had mental health issues. It gets later revealed that possibly his father has mental health issues. Are these things that led to what made Jeffrey Dahmer Jeffrey Dahmer? I don't know. And quite frankly, it's still not an excuse, because there are a lot of people who grew up in dysfunctional families much more dysfunctional than Jeffrey Dahmer's, and going to become very productive people. You know what I'm saying? So that's not an excuse. But the thing that really aggravated me about this series is the absolute noxious racism that individuals who complained about Jeffrey Dahmer had to endure. It was a failure of the Milwaukee police system. It was a failure of the Ohio police system, wherever he lived, that they didn't pick up on the fact that this man was a danger. He had a record of being a sexual deviant, but yet he got break after break after break. And you would see so many different times where when he was before a judge or some other legal fixture, they always kept wanting to give him a break. You know, I don't know whether when they look at Jeffrey Dahmer, they see someone that could be their son or someone that could be, you know, their grandson, or he reminded them of, you know, their son when he was younger, whatever. They kept wanting to believe in this man, a man who was soulless, evil, beyond repair. And oftentimes you saw the victims were the ones that were reviled by the justice system, whether it's a judge that mocks a man for having a thick accent, whether it's police officers who don't want some black woman telling them what to do as far as their job. These police officers who absolutely recoiled from the homosexuality of these two individuals, plus their rampant racism. They just wanted to have nothing to do with the situation. It's amazing that the woman Glenda, all right, played by Niecy Nash, she calls the police department multiple times over a 6 month to a year span about Jeffrey Dahmer, and they did nothing. This shit could have been, countless lives could have been saved if these fucking cops had did their jobs. And I thought that this series did a pretty good job of trying to humanize these victims. Unfortunately, when it comes to Jeffrey Dahmer, a lot of people in this country, and I'm just going to be quite frank, as white people, they had a hard time humanizing his victims. See, when John Wayne Gacy killed 33 kids and put their bodies in the crawl space, it was 33 white kids, for the most part, I believe. When Ed Gein did what he did, he killed white people. Their lives had matter. Their lives had value, and according to society, their lives mattered. But these individuals, majority black, or, and if not black, other minorities, people didn't really care. As a matter of fact, some of the first seedy images, you know, like sick images of, like, you know, underground perverse magazines, you know what I'm saying, like magazines that had pictures of the victims. A lot of that shit started with Jeffrey Dahmer. Not John Wayne Gacy, but Jeffrey Dahmer, because people didn't really care. A lot of people didn't give a fuck about the victims. Still to this day, they don't give a fuck. Who cares? Just a bunch of niggas. Who cares? There's a bunch of, you know, something I can't say on YouTube no more, but that's what they thought about it. They didn't really care about the victims. Jeffrey Dahmer was actually getting money. He had a fan club. Women were offering him marriage and sending him money and wanting to be his girlfriend. They could care less about the victims. So, I remember when Jeffrey Dahmer was killed in prison. I remember when he was killed. It was November of '94. And I felt nothing for Jeffrey Dahmer. I thought that it was justice. Apparently, he himself had wanted to die for quite some time. I felt like he deserved death, so he got it. From what I've read, he was not really remorseful. He would taunt people, taunt about the murders he had committed. He didn't really give a fuck. He put on a good act in front of the cameras, but he didn't give a fuck. And I think people got tired of that. Some of the prisoners got tired of that shit. The inmates, I should say, got tired of that shit. And one particular inmate took matters into his own hands. Now, he's not going to ever get the fuck out. But it is what it is. Now, was everything in this series correct? No, according to the actual evidence, Glenda was not the actual next door neighbor. She did live close, but that was not the actual neighbor. And some of the other things weren't exactly true. I don't think he actually was beaten with a... I don't think he was actually beaten with a bar from the weights. I think he was beaten with a broken off mop handle, or broom handle, excuse me. So there's certain things in the movie that were a little bit fictional, but or the series was fictional. But at the end of the day, it's hard to watch, man. It's hard to watch because of the gore, the racism, and some other stuff that I can't talk about on YouTube that kind of bothered me. I expected it. I knew it was going to be part of his story, but it was just hard to watch. It was constantly in your face. I tell you one thing that was interesting, though, to see a lot of these actors that I grew up watching as a kid were in this series. Molly Ringwald played Jeffrey Dahmer's girlfriend after he left his wife. I didn't recognize that was Molly Ringwald until like the last episode. The actress that played in A Different World and played Jazz's girlfriend and The Fresh Prince, she played one of the later victims of Jeffrey Dahmer's mother. Richard Jenkins, one of my favorite character actors, he played Jeffrey Dahmer's father. And, some other actors in that I recognize as well. But if you watch this series, man, you'll see what I'm saying. Like, it's as you get through the series, it's very emotionally draining. By that, I'm basically saying there's going to be times when you're going to be very pissed off. There are going to be times when you may shed some tears. There are going to be times when you are absolutely repulsed at what you're seeing. And that means, to me, they did a pretty good goddamn job. But tell me what you guys think.